The silence was deafening as Admiral James Porter stared at the holographic display. Proxima Centauri, humanity's first colony among the stars and pride of the United Earth government, was gone. 17 million people wiped out in less than 6 hours by an enemy no one had seen coming. "Play it again," he commanded, his voice barely above a whisper. The recording flickered to life. Governor Maria Reeves, her face streaked with blood, spoke urgently into the camera. Behind her, the colony's command center was in ruins. "This is an emergency message to Earth Command. We are under attack by an unknown alien force. Our defenses have been overwhelmed. They came through some kind of space tear. Thousands of ships, technologies we've never seen. The Galactic Concordat refused our distress calls. They're blocking our communications, but I'm sending this on the quantum channel. They're hunting us down systematically. This isn't random. They knew exactly where to hit us." An explosion rocked the command center, and Governor Reeves looked over her shoulder. When she turned back, her eyes were filled with desperate resolve. "Listen carefully. They call themselves the Dominion. They said humanity has no place among the stars. The transmission cut off as something massive crashed through the ceiling. Admiral Porter closed his eyes. 17 years of peace following first contact with the Galactic Concordat, a federation of 7 alien species who had welcomed humanity with open arms, or so they'd claimed. Humans had been the junior partners, of course, the newcomers to the galactic stage. The Concordat had restricted human expansion and military development for our own safety. And now this. "Sir," Lieutenant Olivia Diaz interrupted his thoughts. "The Security Council is assembled." Porter nodded, straightening his uniform. "Any word from the Concordat?" "Yes, sir. Ambassador Threll sends his deepest regrets for the isolated incident at Proxima and assures us that the Concordat is investigating the matter." "Isolated incident," Porter repeated, his voice hard as steel. 17 million dead. "There's something else, sir," Diaz said, handing him a datapad. This came through on a classified channel. From General William Frost. Porter's eyebrows rose. Frost had been his academy roommate decades ago before disappearing into the depths of military intelligence. The message was brief. "Operation Lazarus is green. Neptune's shadow awaits your command." For the first time since the transmission from Proxima, Admiral Porter felt something other than despair. A cold, calculated anger took its place. "Tell the Council I'm on my way," he said, "and prepare my shuttle for Neptune immediately afterward." As Porter walked toward the Council chambers, he allowed himself a grim smile. The Concordat and their new friends, this Dominion, had made a fatal error. They thought they'd left humanity defenseless. They were about to learn how wrong they were. 2 hours later, Porter stood before the United Earth Security Council. 12 men and women representing the major regions of Earth sat in a semicircle, their faces grave. "Admiral Porter," began Council President Amelia Garcia, "your assessment of the Proxima situation, please." "Proxima colony has been destroyed," Porter said bluntly. "All 17 million inhabitants are presumed dead. The attacking force identified themselves as the Dominion. Our intelligence suggests they may have connections to the Galactic Concordat." Murmurs spread through the chamber. "That's a serious accusation," said Councilor Jackson. "From the North American zone, the Concordat has been our ally for nearly 2 decades, an ally that has consistently limited our military development and expansion," Porter countered. "An ally that ignored Proxima's distress calls. What do you propose we do?" Garcia asked. Porter straightened. "Madam President, councilors, I believe the time for diplomacy has passed. I'm activating Operation Lazarus." The room fell silent. "Operation Lazarus was never officially approved by this council," said Councilor Lee from the Asian Coalition. "No," Porter agreed, "but it was funded and supported by elements within our intelligence services who foresaw this very situation." "Explain," Garcia demanded. Porter tapped his datapad, and a holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed Neptune, and then zoomed in to reveal a massive hidden space station and shipyards. "For the past 15 years, we've been secretly building a war fleet in Neptune's shadow, far from the Concordat's prying eyes. 217 warships with technologies that match or exceed those of the Concordat." Gasps and exclamations filled the room. "This is a direct violation of our treaties," Councilor Jackson protested. Treaties that have left us defenseless against the Dominion, Porter replied. We must act now. I'm requesting formal authorization to deploy the Shadow Fleet. President Garcia studied Porter for a long moment. And if we refuse? Porter's face remained impassive. Then I will tender my resignation and recommend evacuation protocols begin immediately. We have perhaps 2 weeks before the Dominion reaches Earth. The Council debated for hours. In the end, the vote was 7-5 in favor of activating the fleet. You have your authorization, Admiral, Garcia said grimly, but the Council expects to be kept fully informed of your actions. Of course, Madam President, Porter nodded. I'll depart for Neptune immediately. As Porter left the chambers, Counselor Lee caught up with him in the corridor. You were very confident we would approve your request, Lee said quietly. I was confident you would choose survival, Porter replied. Lee's eyes narrowed. Just remember, Admiral, that how we survive matters too. Don't lose what makes us human in your quest for revenge. Porter's expression softened slightly. This isn't about revenge, Counselor. It's about justice, and ensuring humanity has a future among the stars. With that, he strode toward the landing bay where his shuttle waited. 6 hours later, Porter's shuttle approached Neptune, the massive blue planet looming large in the viewport. His pilot looked confused. Sir, these coordinates take us to empty space. Just keep going, Porter instructed. As they neared the designated position, the space before them shimmered, and a massive structure appeared as its cloaking field deactivated, a space station 10 kilometers across with extensive shipyards surrounding it. And within those yards, hundreds of warships gleamed in the distant sunlight. The shuttle docked in the main hangar, where General William Frost waited. The tall silver-haired man smiled grimly as Porter disembarked. Welcome to Neptune's shadow, old friend, Frost said, extending his hand. Porter clasped it firmly. It's been too long, Will. I see you've been busy. We both knew this day might come, Frost replied. The Concordat was never going to let humanity become an equal partner. We were always going to be their servants or their victims. Show me what we've got, Porter said. Frost led him to a command center overlooking the shipyards. Massive view screens showed the assembled fleet in all its glory. 217 warships, Frost explained, from fast attack frigates to heavy dreadnoughts, each equipped with technology equal to or better than the Concordat standard. How is that possible? Porter asked. The Concordat has restricted our access to advanced propulsion and weapons systems. We've had help, said a new voice. Porter turned to see a woman approaching. Her right arm was a sophisticated prosthetic, and scars marked the right side of her face. Admiral Porter, meet Dr. Elizabeth Weller, our chief scientist, Frost said. Not all members of the Concordat agree with their leadership, Dr. Weller explained. The Arcanians in particular have been secretly feeding us advanced technologies. They believe the Dominion infiltrated the Concordat years ago, so Proxima wasn't just an attack, Porter realized. It was a test, yes, Frost nodded. The Dominion wanted to see if the Concordat would honor its defense agreements with humanity. And they didn't, Porter said grimly. They offered empty words while our people died. Weller agreed, her voice hard. And now they'll do the same for Earth. Porter looked out at the assembled fleet, feeling a surge of pride and determination. How soon can we deploy? Frost and Weller exchanged glances. That's where things get complicated, Frost said. The ships are ready, but our most advanced weapon system, the Void Drive, isn't fully operational yet. What's the Void Drive? Porter asked. It's not just a propulsion system, Weller explained. It's a weapon that can create localized tiers in spacetime, similar to how the Dominion ships appeared at Proxima. But we've had a setback. What kind of setback? The lead engineer, Dr. Marcus Reynolds, has disappeared, Frost said gravely, along with key components. We believe there may be a Dominion agent in our ranks. Porter absorbed this news grimly. Without the Void Drive, they might not have the edge needed to defeat the Dominion. How long until the Dominion reaches Earth? He asked. 2 weeks, maybe less, Frost replied. Porter looked back at the fleet, his mind racing. Then he remembered something from Governor Reeves's final transmission. She said they came through a space tear, Porter said thoughtfully. If we can't bring our fleet to them in time, we bring them to our fleet, Weller finished, her eyes widening. It's risky, but if we could lure them here to Neptune, we'd have the element of surprise, Frost nodded. But how do we lure an entire invasion fleet to the outer solar system? Porter's expression hardened with resolve. We give them something they want more than Earth, something they'll change their plans for. What could be more valuable than Earth? Weller asked. The one thing that could threaten their dominance, Porter replied. Knowledge of the void drive itself. Captain Laura Hayes felt exposed as her light cruiser, the UES Hermes, approached the massive Concordat station orbiting Mars. Though officially a diplomatic courier, the Hermes had been part of Neptune's shadow fleet until 48 hours ago, when Admiral Porter had selected it, and her, for this high-risk mission. Concordat Control is hailing us. Captain, reported her communications officer. Lieutenant Victor Rodriguez, on screen, Hayes ordered. Straightening in her command chair, a reptilian face appeared on the main view screen. Ambassador Threll of the Civixians, the dominant species within the Concordat. Captain Hayes. Threll's voice was smooth, almost musical despite his fearsome appearance. This is an unexpected pleasure. We were not informed of an Earth diplomatic vessel's arrival. Ambassador? Hayes nodded formally. I come bearing an urgent message from the Security Council regarding the Proxima incident. For your eyes only. Something flickered in Threll's vertical pupils. Interest or perhaps suspicion. Of course. Proceed to docking bay 4. I will meet you personally. As the transmission ended, Rodriguez turned to Hayes. Do you think he suspects? It doesn't matter, Hayes replied. He'll take the bait either way. The plan was bold. Dr. Weller had prepared a data package containing partial but convincing information about the void. Drive enough to make the Dominion believe humanity possessed technology that could threaten them. Hayes would deliver this to Threll, knowing that if he was indeed working with the Dominion as they suspected, he would immediately alert them. 2 hours later, Hayes sat across from Threll in his private chambers, sliding a secure data module across his ornate desk. This contains information about a technological breakthrough, Hayes explained. In light of the Proxima attack, Earth feels the Concordat should be aware of our defensive capabilities. How thoughtful, Threll said, making no move to touch the module. Though I wonder why such information wasn't shared during our regular technology exchange protocols. Hayes had been briefed extensively on how to respond. Some elements within our government felt this particular technology should remain proprietary. The Proxima attack has changed their perspective. I see. Threll finally picked up the module. And what exactly does this technology do? It creates controlled ruptures in space-time, Hayes said, watching Threll's reaction carefully. Similar to the technology observed during the attack on Proxima. Threll's scaled skin seemed to pale slightly. Fascinating. I will ensure this receives proper attention. There's more, Hayes continued. The Security Council has authorized me to inform you that our primary research facility for this technology is located on Triton, Neptune's largest moon. A delegation from the Concordat would be welcome to inspect it, as a show of our continued trust. This was the critical part of the trap, directing the Dominion's attention to Neptune, where the hidden fleet waited. How generous, Threll said, his voice slightly strained. I will consult with the Concordat High Council immediately. Of course, Hayes rose to leave. We'll expect your response within 48 hours. As she walked back to her ship, Hayes tapped her subdermal communicator twice, the signal that the bait had been taken. Now came the dangerous part. If they were right about Threll, the Hermes would be followed when it left Mars. 6 hours later, as the Hermes accelerated away from Mars, Lieutenant Rodriguez confirmed their suspicions. Captain, we're being scanned by an unidentified vessel. They're matching our course, staying just outside conventional detection range. Hayes nodded grimly. Good. Let's lead them on a merry chase. The Hermes began an indirect route toward Neptune, making seemingly random course corrections and stops that would appear to any observer as an attempt to shake pursuit, while actually ensuring their shadow stayed with them. 3 days into their journey, as they approached the asteroid belt, disaster struck. A massive energy surge erupted from the pursuing vessel, and the Hermes rocked violently. Direct hit to our engines, shouted the tactical officer, Commander Pete Garcia. They're powering up for another shot. Hayes had expected this, their pursuer wouldn't. Allow them to reach Neptune if they truly believed the void drive was there. Initiate Scarecrow Protocol, she ordered calmly. The bridge crew moved with precision, while the ship appeared to be desperately trying to restore power to its engines. A specially designed buoy was jettisoned from its underside, broadcasting an identical signal signature to the Hermes. Ejecting escape pods now, Rodriguez announced, as a series of empty pods launched noisily from the ship's sides, a convincing display of evacuation. The pursuing vessel fired again, this time striking what appeared to be the Hermes core. The explosion was spectacular, debris scattering across space. Hidden among this debris, the real Hermes powered down to minimal systems, appearing as nothing more than another piece of wreckage. Hayes watched on a low-power screen as their pursuer approached the larger pieces of debris, scanning them before accelerating away toward Neptune. "They've taken the bait," she whispered. "Signal Admiral Porter. The Dominion is coming." Back at Neptune's shadow, Admiral Porter received Hayes' encrypted transmission with grim satisfaction. "They're on their way," he told General Frost and Dr. Weller in the station's war room. "How long until they arrive?" "Based on their observed speeds at Proxima, between 36 and 48 hours, Weller replied. "But they'll likely emerge through a space-time rupture rather than conventional travel." "Then we need to be ready," Porter said. "Deploy the fleet in defensive positions around Triton. Make it look like we're protecting something vital." "What about the actual void drive research?" Frost asked. "Should we move it deeper into the station?" Porter shook his head. "No, we need to sell this deception completely. Set up a fake research facility on Triton, complete with power signatures they'll expect from void technology. Dr. Weller, your team should prepare the void mines for deployment." Weller nodded. While the complete void drive wasn't operational, they had developed smaller devices that could create localized, temporary disruptions in space-time. Not enough to transport ships, but enough to disrupt enemy formations and communications. "And Captain Hayes?" Frost asked. "The Hermes will remain powered down until the engagement begins," Porter decided. "Then they'll make their way back to join the fleet. Hayes and her crew have played their part, and played it well." As the station erupted into activity, Porter took a moment to look out at the assembled fleet. Ships that had been hidden for years were now moving into position, their crews, many of whom had never seen actual combat, preparing for humanity's first major space battle. "Do you think it'll be enough?" Weller asked quietly, joining him at the viewport. Porter considered the question. The Dominion force that had destroyed Proxima had numbered in the hundreds of ships. Their fleet, while advanced, was roughly equal in number. "It has to be," he replied. "We won't get a second chance." 38 hours later, space itself seemed to tear open near Triton. From the bridge of the UES Defiance, Porter watched as the first Dominion vessels emerged from the rupture. "Status report," he ordered. "Enemy vessels emerging in grid sectors 7 through 12, reported Lieutenant Diaz, now serving as his tactical officer. "Counting. 150. 200. "Still coming, sir." Porter's jaw tightened. More ships than they'd anticipated. The Dominion had committed a significant force to this operation. "All ships maintain positions," he ordered over the fleet-wide channel. "Hold fire until they're fully committed." The Dominion fleet continued to emerge, their dark, angular vessels forming into attack formations. At their center was a massive dreadnought, easily twice the size of the Defiance. "Fleet count now at 243 vessels, Diaz updated. "Formation suggests they're preparing for a frontal assault on Triton, exactly as planned." The fake research facility had power signatures mimicking what the Dominion would expect from void drive technology. "Sir," Diaz continued, "we're being hailed by the enemy flagship." Porter raised an eyebrow. This was unexpected. On screen. The view screen flickered to life, showing a pale humanoid figure with completely black eyes. His uniform was elaborate, adorned with what appeared to be bones and metal. "I am General Thomas Riley of the Dominion forces," the figure announced. "You have something that belongs to us. Surrender Triton and all void technology, and we may allow your species to live, as our servants." Porter stood from his command chair, facing the screen squarely. "This is Admiral James Porter of the United Earth Navy. The only thing we're offering is this. Leave our system now, or be destroyed." Riley's expression didn't change, but his voice took on an amused tone. "Brave words from a primitive species. We destroyed your colony with ease. Your homeworld will fall just as quickly once we've secured the void technology. You seem very interested in technology that you claim is yours, Porter observed, almost as if you're afraid of what we might do with it. For the first time, Riley's composure slipped slightly. You cannot comprehend the forces you're tampering with. The void is ours to command, not yours. We'll see about that, Porter replied and signaled Diaz to cut the transmission. Then he opened a channel to the entire fleet. All ships, this is Admiral Porter. The enemy has committed their forces. Spring the trap. Attack pattern Lazarus, execute now. Throughout the Neptune system, the hidden elements of Porter's plan activated. A dozen stealth platforms positioned around the area suddenly powered up, creating a dampening field that would prevent the Dominion fleet from opening new space-time ruptures for retreat. Meanwhile, the Earth fleet broke from its defensive positions around Triton, moving into carefully planned attack vectors. The battle for Neptune had begun. General Thomas Riley of the Dominion forces stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Subjugator, as his fleet emerged from the spatial tear near Triton. Behind him, over 200 warships followed, a force powerful enough to conquer Earth several times over. Status report, he demanded. Scans show minimal defenses around Triton. General, his second-in-command, Commander Nex, reported. Only a small research outpost as intelligence suggested. Riley nodded, his pale features set in a perpetual frown. The Dominion had waited centuries for this moment, the chance to eliminate humanity before they developed technologies that could threaten Dominion supremacy across the galaxy. The attack on Proxima had been merely the opening move. The void drive technology must be secured intact, he reminded Nex. Once we have it, we'll proceed to Earth as planned. And the humans at the research station? Extract what information you can, then dispose of them. Standard procedure. As the Dominion fleet approached Triton, Riley felt a slight unease. Something didn't feel right. The intelligence from their agent in the Concordat had been precise. Earth had developed early-stage void technology and housed it on Triton. But why here, so far from Earth's defense perimeter? General, I'm detecting unusual energy fluctuations from Triton's surface, the sensor officer reported suddenly. Before Riley could respond, space itself seemed to ripple around them. From behind Neptune's massive form, warships began to appear. Dozens, then hundreds. Ambush, Nex shouted. Earth vessels bearing down from all vectors. Riley stared in disbelief at the tactical display. These weren't the primitive defense vessels Earth was supposed to possess under Concordat restrictions. These were advanced warships, easily a match for Dominion technology. Impossible, he breathed. How did they... His question was cut short as the first salvos hit the Subjugator's shields. The battle for Neptune had begun. Aboard the UES Defiance, Admiral Porter watched as his carefully orchestrated trap unfolded. The Dominion fleet had emerged exactly where they'd predicted, lured by the false intelligence about the void drive. All ships, execute attack pattern Lazarus, Porter ordered. Focus fire on their command vessels. The Earth fleet moved with precision, having trained for this moment for years in the shadow of Neptune. Ships designated as hammer groups targeted the largest Dominion vessels, while spear teams of faster frigates darted between enemy formations, disrupting their ability to coordinate. Sir, Lieutenant Diaz reported from her tactical station. The enemy is regrouping. They're forming a defensive sphere. Porter nodded. This was expected. The Dominion's technological advantage was partially offset by the surprise of the ambush, but they were still formidable opponents. Deploy the void mines, he ordered, from specialized carriers at the fleet's rear. Hundreds of small devices were launched into the space between the opposing forces. Dr. Weller's creation, not the full void drive technology, but derivatives that could create localized, temporary disruptions in space-time. As the mines activated, sections of the Dominion fleet found themselves momentarily phased out of normal space, unable to communicate or coordinate with their allies. Porter used this confusion to press the attack. All hammer groups converge on targets Alpha through Echo, he commanded. Spear teams prepare to exploit any breach in their formation. The battle raged for hours, the space around Neptune illuminated by weapons fire and exploding vessels. The human fleet fought with a desperate ferocity, knowing Earth's survival hung in the balance. On the Subjugator, General Riley watched with growing rage as his forces were slowly pushed back. They still outnumbered the humans, but the unexpected technology and tactics had nullified many of their advantages. "Prepare the Annihilator," he ordered next. "Target their flagship." "Sir, the Annihilator has never been tested in actual combat," Nex cautioned. "The power requirements—" "Do it," Riley shouted. "This ends now." Deep within the subjugator, a weapon powered up, one capable of creating a miniature black hole that would tear apart anything caught in its gravitational well. Aboard the Defiance, sensors detected the massive energy buildup. "Unknown weapon signature from the enemy flagship," Diaz reported urgently. "Power levels off the charts." Porter's mind raced. They hadn't anticipated this. The void mines were depleted and the fleet was committed to the attack. "Sir," a voice called from the rear of the bridge. Dr. Weller had arrived, looking exhausted but determined. "They're powering up a singularity weapon. I've seen the theoretical designs in Arcanian records. Can we counter it?" Porter asked. "Not directly," Weller admitted. "But I've been working on something." She handed him a data pad, a modified version of the Void Drive prototype. "It can't move ships yet, but it might be able to redirect the singularity effect." Porter studied the specifications quickly. This would have to be deployed manually, from inside the Dominion formation. "Yes," Weller said quietly. "It's a one-way mission." Porter looked at the tactical display. Thousands of lives on both sides had already been lost. If the Dominion deployed their weapon, the entire Earth fleet would be destroyed, leaving Earth defenseless. "I'll go," a new voice said. Captain Hayes had arrived on the bridge, having finally reached Neptune after their decoy mission. "Laura," Porter began, "the Hermes is fast enough to penetrate their lines," Hayes insisted. "And we're already considered destroyed. They won't be looking for us." Porter wanted to argue, but the tactical situation allowed no time. "Do it." As the Dominion's weapon reached critical power levels, the UES Hermes, running dark and silent, slipped through the chaotic battlefield toward the subjugator. In its cargo hold, Dr. Weller's device hummed with energy. On the bridge of the Hermes, Captain Hayes and her small crew worked with grim determination. They would have one chance. "Approaching optimal deployment range," Rodriguez reported. 30 seconds, Hayes nodded. "All hands, prepare for emergency evacuation. Get to the escape pods, Captain," Rodriguez began. "That's an order, Lieutenant." Hayes's tone brooked no argument. "Someone needs to manually activate the device. I'll handle it." As her crew reluctantly headed for the escape pods, Hayes piloted the Hermes directly toward the subjugator. Alarms blared as the ship's sensors detected the immense energy buildup. 20 seconds to singularity weapon discharge, the computer announced. Hayes reached the cargo hold, securing the activation sequence on Dr. Weller's device. As she worked, she felt the ship shudder as it came under fire. The Dominion had finally noticed them. 10 seconds to discharge. Hayes completed the final sequence. The device would activate automatically when the singularity weapon fired, creating a spatial loop that would, hopefully, redirect the weapon's energy back upon itself. Running to the nearest escape pod, Hayes launched just as the Hermes engines exploded from enemy fire. Her tiny pod tumbled away from the doomed ship, giving her a perfect view of what happened next. The subjugator fired its weapon, a dark distortion in space lancing out toward the Earth fleet. At the same instant, Dr. Weller's device activated aboard the drifting Hermes. For a moment, space itself seemed to bend. The singularity weapon's effect twisted, curving back toward its source. General Riley had just enough time to recognize his error before the subjugator collapsed in upon itself, crushed by its own weapon. The effect cascaded through the nearest Dominion ships, destroying dozens before dissipating. The remaining enemy vessels, now leaderless and shocked by the destruction of their flagship, began a disorganized retreat. As Hayes's escape pod was recovered by an Earth vessel, she watched the remnants of the Dominion fleet flee toward the outer solar system. Pursued by Porter's warships, for the first time since Proxima fell, humanity had hope. In the aftermath of the battle, Admiral Porter stood in the command center of Neptune's shadow station. The holographic displays showed the status of the fleet. 47 ships lost, 93 severely damaged. Thousands of crew members dead or wounded. But they had won. The Dominion fleet had been decimated, with less than 60 of their vessels escaping the trap. It was a decisive victory, but Porter knew the war was far from over. "Captain Hayes, he greeted as she entered the room, still wearing the emergency suit from her escape pod. Humanity owes you a debt we can never repay. Hayes shook her head. I just did my duty, sir. We all did. Nevertheless, Porter insisted, your actions turned the tide of the battle. Before Hayes could respond, General Frost entered, his expression grave despite the victory. We've intercepted communications from the retreating Dominion ships, he reported. They've called for reinforcements. Porter's brief moment of satisfaction faded. How many? A lot, Frost said grimly. Thousands of ships. They're mobilizing their entire battle fleet. How long do we have? Hayes asked. 3 months, perhaps 4, Frost replied. They'll need time to assemble a force of that size. Porter nodded slowly. Then we have 3 months to prepare. Dr. Weller, how soon can we have a working void drive prototype? Weller, who had been quietly analyzing data from the battle, looked up. The device we used against the subjugator provided valuable data. With that, and components we can salvage from captured Dominion vessels. 2 months, maybe less. Good, Porter said, because we need to take the fight to them next time. We can't just defend, we need to strike at the heart of the Dominion itself. Sir, Hayes interjected, with all due respect, even with the void drive, our fleet isn't large enough to take on the entire Dominion. You're right, Porter agreed, which is why we won't be fighting alone. He nodded to Frost, who activated a new holographic display. It showed a transmission from an Arcanian vessel. The alien's crystalline features were difficult for humans to read, but its message was clear enough. Admiral Porter, I am High Commander Zix of the Arcanian Defense Force. Your victory against the Dominion has convinced our council to finally take action. We are prepared to formalize our alliance with Earth and commit our military forces to your cause. The Dominion's influence within the Concordat must be purged, and humanity has proven itself worthy of standing alongside us as equals. Porter turned to Hayes and Weller. The Battle of Neptune was just the beginning. Now we take the war to the stars. As the transmission ended, the 3 humans looked out at the damaged but victorious Earth fleet. The odds were still against them, but for the first time in humanity's history, they would fight among the stars not as newcomers or junior partners, but as equals, and the Dominion would learn to fear the species they had so grievously underestimated. 3 months after the Battle of Neptune, Captain Laura Hayes stood on the bridge of her new command. The UES Prometheus, the first Earth vessel fully equipped with Dr. Weller's completed void drive. The ship hummed, with power as final preparations were made for humanity's first offensive. Strike against the Dominion. Drive status? Hayes asked, her eyes on the main view screen showing the assembled fleet. Void drive at 98% efficiency, Captain, reported Lieutenant Rodriguez, now her executive officer. Dr. Weller says that's within acceptable parameters. Hayes nodded. After the Neptune victory, she had been promoted and given command of this prototype vessel, a testament to the trust Admiral Porter placed in her. The Prometheus wasn't the largest ship in the fleet, but it was the most advanced and would lead the attack force. All ships report ready, Captain, announced the communications officer. Admiral Porter is hailing from the Defiance. On screen, Hayes ordered. Admiral Porter's face appeared on the display. The months of preparation had aged him. New lines creased his face and his hair showed more gray. But his eyes remained sharp and determined. Captain Hayes, status report. All systems green, Admiral. The Prometheus is ready to make history. Porter allowed himself a small smile. Indeed. The first human-made ship to travel through the void to another star system. Are the coordinates for the Sirius target locked in? Yes, sir. Dr. Weller has personally verified the calculations. Good. Porter's expression grew serious. Remember, this is a surgical strike. The Dominion outpost at Sirius is lightly defended, but strategically vital for their supply lines. Our goal is to destroy it quickly and return before they can respond. Understood, sir. The future of our species rests on this mission, Captain, Porter said quietly. If the void drive works as we hope, we can take the fight directly to the Dominion's core systems. If not, he left the alternative unspoken. Hayes straightened. We won't fail, sir. I know you won't. Godspeed, Captain. Defiance out. As Porter's image disappeared, Hayes turned to her bridge crew. 30 ships would follow the Prometheus into the void. A small force, but hopefully enough for this first strike. All hands, prepare for void transition, she ordered. Helm, begin the countdown. Throughout the ship, crew members secured stations and equipment. Unlike conventional propulsion, the void drive created a temporary phase shift that would move the vessel partially out of normal spacetime, allowing it to traverse vast distances almost instantly. The theory had been understood for years, but only with Dr. Weller's breakthroughs and captured Dominion technology had it become reality. Void drive spooling up, reported the engineering officer. Phase generators at maximum. Hayes felt a slight vibration through the deck plates as the massive energies of the drive built up. On the view screen, she could see the other ships of the attack force, each equipped with a smaller version of the void drive, moving into formation. Countdown to transition. 10, 9, 8. Hayes thought briefly of all that had brought humanity to this moment. The destruction of Proxima, the battle at Neptune, the alliance with the Arcanians, 3 months of feverish preparation as the Earth government transformed to a war footing. And now, this moment, humanity's first deliberate step beyond their solar system. 3, 2, 1. Void transition engaged. The space around the fleet seemed to darken, as if all light was being absorbed. Hayes felt a momentary sensation of weightlessness, then pressure, as if she was being squeezed from all directions. The view screen showed only swirling darkness for several seconds. Then suddenly light returned. Where Neptune had been, now shone the bright blue-white light of Sirius, nearly twice as bright as Earth's sun. Transition complete, Rodriguez reported, his voice steady despite the historic moment. All ships present and accounted for. We're in the Sirius system. A cheer went up from the bridge crew, quickly silenced by Hayes's raised hand. Tactical report, she ordered. Where's our target? Scanning, replied the tactical officer. Dominion outpost detected on the third planet. Defenses as expected, minimal. They aren't expecting us, Hayes smiled grimly. Let's keep the element of surprise. All ships, combat formation Delta, weapons free. The Earth fleet accelerated toward the Dominion outpost, a sprawling facility on a barren, rocky world. As they approached, the few defensive satellites around the planet began to activate, but too late. They're scrambling fighters, Rodriguez reported. Estimating 2 minutes until they're airborne. We won't give them 2 minutes, Hayes replied. Target their hangars and power plants first. Launch all squadrons. The Prometheus and its companion ships opened fire as they entered orbital range. Energy beams and missiles streaked toward the planet's surface. Meanwhile, fighter squadrons deployed from the Earth vessels, racing ahead to engage the few Dominion ships that had managed to launch. The battle was brief but intense. The Dominion forces fought with their usual skill and ferocity, but they were hopelessly outnumbered and caught unprepared. Within 30 minutes, the outpost's defenses had been neutralized. Ground teams report the facility is secured, Captain, Rodriguez announced. They've accessed the main computer core and are downloading intelligence now. Hayes nodded. How long until— Captain! The sensor officer interrupted urgently. Spatial distortion detected at the system's edge. Large energy signature consistent with multiple void transitions. Hayes felt her blood run cold. Dominion reinforcements? Confirmed, reading. At least 40 vessels. Heavy warship classification. They'd been expected after all. Somehow the Dominion had anticipated the attack. All ground teams, immediate extraction, Hayes ordered. Prepare for emergency void transition back to Sol. Rodriguez, contact the Admiral. Communications being jammed, Rodriguez reported grimly. And the void drive needs 10 minutes to recycle before another jump. 10 minutes they didn't have. The Dominion reinforcements would be upon them in less than 5. All ships, defensive formation, Hayes commanded. Prepare for combat. We hold them off until the void drives are ready. As the Earth vessels formed a protective sphere, Hayes studied the tactical display. The approaching Dominion ships were larger and more heavily armed than their own. In a direct confrontation, they would be overwhelmed. Captain, the science officer spoke up. I've been analyzing the Dominion's void transition signature. There's a pattern to the spatial distortion they create. Explain, Hayes demanded. Their technology creates a more stable tear in space-time than ours. But if we could disrupt that tear while they're still transitioning— Hayes understood immediately. We could trap them between normal space and the void. Theoretically, yes. But we'd need to create an inverse phase wave precisely calibrated to their transition frequency. Can we do that with the Prometheus's drive? Possibly. but it would mean diverting power from weapons and shields. Hayes made her decision instantly. Do it. Rodriguez, order all other ships to continue with the extraction and prepare for jump. The Prometheus will hold position. Captain, that's too risky, Rodriguez protested. If we divert power from shields, that's an order, XO, Hayes said firmly. The mission comes first. We need to get that intelligence back to Earth. As the science team worked frantically to recalibrate the Void drive, the first wave of Dominion ships entered weapons range. Their opening salvo hit the Prometheus hard, even with shields at full power. Shields at 60%, reported Tactical. Minor damage to decks 3 through 7. Return fire targeting engines only, Hayes ordered. We just need to slow them down. For 3 intense minutes, the Prometheus exchanged fire with the Dominion vessels, taking increasing damage while the rest of the Earth fleet completed their extraction of ground teams. Drive recalibration complete, the science officer finally announced, ready to generate inverse phase wave. All ships except Prometheus. Execute Void jump now, Hayes commanded across the fleet channel. One by one, the Earth vessels disappeared into the darkness of Void transitions, leaving the Prometheus alone against the Dominion fleet. Shields at 15%, Tactical reported. Hull breaches on multiple decks. Divert all remaining power to the Void drive, Hayes ordered. Prepare to initiate the inverse phase wave on my mark. As the Dominion ships closed in for the kill surrounding the Prometheus, Hayes watched the energy readings of their drives building to another wave of reinforcements transitioning in. Wait for it, she murmured, her eyes fixed on the tactical display. Wait for it now. Initiate phase wave. The Prometheus's Void drive surged with power, creating not a transition field around the ship, but an expanding wave of energy calibrated to the exact inverse frequency of the Dominion's transition tear. Space itself seemed to shudder as the wave collided with the forming spatial tear. The distortion expanded, then collapsed in on itself violently. The Dominion ships nearest to the tear point were caught in the backlash, torn apart by the competing forces. Others found their systems overloaded, drifting powerless. Void drive at critical levels, engineering reported. We have maybe one jump left before a complete burnout. Make it count, Hayes said. Set coordinates for Neptune. Execute jump now. As the remaining Dominion ships regrouped to attack, the Prometheus disappeared into the Void, leaving behind chaos and destruction. The jump back to Neptune was rougher than the outbound trip. The ship shuddered and groaned, systems fluctuating wildly as the damaged Void drive struggled to maintain the transition field. When they emerged in Neptune's orbit, the drive exploded in a cascade of system failures, leaving the Prometheus drifting and wounded. But they had made it home, and more importantly, they had proven that humanity could take the fight directly to the enemy. As repair ships rushed to assist the Prometheus, Hayes received a transmission from Admiral Porter on the Defiance. Captain, your actions today were nothing short of extraordinary, Porter said, genuine pride in his voice. The intelligence you recovered will be invaluable. Thank you, sir, Hayes replied wearily. Did all our ships make it back? Yes, thanks to your sacrifice play. And the data you brought back? Porter's expression grew intense. It changes everything, Captain. We've found a way to end this war.